Hello, students. Thank you so much for joining me for another math lesson with Mr. Woodford. I'm super excited for you to join me today. We continue our Unit 2 series, and we're talking about um, order of operations with word problems. And we're going to focus on multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Once again, those four components to get better at them. Just a recap of what we talked about in lesson 2.3. Remember, there's only 4 steps to order of operations. I know most people teach you 6 steps, P1, E2, but I go with 3 is multiplication or division, whichever one comes first, left to right. Then the 4th step is addition or subtraction, whichever one comes first, left to right. I'm going to say that again because this is the most important part of order of operations that many people miss and they don't get a chance to really thrive in. 1, parentheses. That means grouping, brackets. That means any type of absolute value, anything that has something that says this inside needs to be taken care of first. Second step is exponents. Do not try to write your exponents as multiplication, even though we know that, because then you'll change the entire problem. Instead, take care of exponents. If it says 3 to the second power, that does not mean 3 times 6. That means 3 times 3. That number times itself. For example, even if I said 4 to the second power, 4, 2, 4 with the 2 above it, that means 4 times 4, not 4 times 2. Okay? Take care of exponents. That's the second step. Third step, multiplication or division. Whichever one comes first, left to right. Because we read left to right, so whichever one comes first, left to right. And then additional subtraction, whichever one comes first, left to right. Let's dive right in. If you have your packet with me, please open up to lesson 2.6, where we're going to be talking about word problems. Don't you love them? All right, let's do it. All right. We're going to focus on writing expressions from word problems into this order of operations. And of course, we will also then solve them using the technique of PEMDAS, okay? So using your knowledge of the order of operations, let's answer the following questions. As usual, take your time, pause the video right now to begin to work on the bell work, all right? Now, you could use a calculator, you could not use a calculator. I would recommend for the bell work, don't use a calculator. Try it off the top of your head. To see if you can figure it out. The reason why is because on Star 360, they give you order of operation problems, but you can't use a calculator then. So try to challenge yourself to see if you can figure out what these are. But more importantly than that, if you have to use a calculator, please make sure you follow the order of operation steps. All right, take your time, pause the video. All right, let's dive in. Looking at bell work A, right? We have a -6 parentheses 13 minus 21. I want to let you know that whenever you see parentheses in a problem like this right next to a number, and it could be next to a letter as well as we get ready to learn about algebra, that indicates multiplication. That indicates multiplication. So when I'm looking at this -6 parentheses 13, that's really saying -6 multiplied by 13, then subtract 21. Now that tells me what operations do I have here? I have multiplication, and I also have subtraction. Okay, these are my 2 operations that I have in this problem. Okay, according to the order of operations, I need to undo. I'm sorry, I lied. Forgive me. I need to take care of multiplication and then take care of subtraction here. All right. So first we're going to say, okay, what is -6 times 13? We know a negative times positive is going to give us a negative anyway, right? Whether you use your calculator or you remember 6 times 10 is 60, 6 times 3 is 18, 60 plus 18, right, gives me 78. Whatever combination you did to get -78 here, that's what you get, minus 21, okay? Now, the good news is that, yes, you could use your calculator, but once again, I recommend you not. If you remember this from Unit 1, we worked on this. You can even write this as addition if you like, -78 plus a -21, right? Something like that. Keep change, you remember? And then from here, what you could do is absolute value of both, which is 78 and 21. Because they both are negative, same sign, you add them together. That's going to give you 99. And then because they were both negative, you make sure you keep that negative there. Okay? So this is our answer here, -99. If you got -99, you did a great job. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Do not do subtraction first here. The biggest confusion that most people have will not noticing that this means multiplication. Parentheses next to a number like this indicates there is multiplication happening, and you always do multiplication before you do subtraction. Okay. Looking at bell work B. Bell work B says negative 12 divided by 6 plus 2. Negative 12 divided by 6 plus 2. Once again, if I think about PEMDAS, I know there's MDAS. Those are the last four that we're focusing on. There is multiplication and division comes before addition and subtraction. So I got to take care of the division before I do anything with the addition. All right. So when I look here, I say, okay, well, when I go and do these two here, I do negative 12 divided by 6. How many times does 6 go into 12? 2 times. But because it's a negative, we know just like with multiplication, if one is negative, one is positive, and we divide or multiply, the answer has to be negative. Okay, so I do negative 12 divided by 6 gives me negative 2 plus 2, right? And we should know something about this here. We know that these are inverses. Inverse means opposite. They're additive inverses, so they end up equaling 0. Okay, if you got these two answers, you did an excellent job. This is exactly how we are to do it. Now, don't get me wrong; these are just bell work problems. They are trying to warm you up, get you used to it. In class, I may add an additional problem here outside of the comparison, just to practice also understanding when to use multiplication and division first, left to right, or when to use addition and subtraction first, left to right. Just be ready for that in class, right? If, for example, you're like, well, I missed class. Can you give me one now? I will give you one now. Okay. Imagine you had 2 minus 6 plus 4. And let's say you also had 6 divided by 3 times 4, right? Imagine you had those two problems there, right? Take a second as well. Pause the video, see if you can figure those out. I want to give you a chance online to also practice an additional step as well, just because I believe this is extra important into getting better at PEMDAS. All right, so you pause your video. Let's say you went through it. Now I'm just going to give you the answers first, and that way you can see if you got it right or wrong. Matter of fact, let me just give you the answers, and then you take a second to try to figure out how I got those answers. And if you have a question about them, please bring them to me in class to make sure we go over them, all right? So what I do here first, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna give you what I do first. I'm gonna give you the answer. First one is 0, okay? And you're probably like, what? How? Make sure you follow the order of operations. Remember, there's 4 steps, not 6. Addition and subtraction are on the same step, whichever one comes first, left to right. Number 2, you should have got 8. And if you got this right, congratulations, right? It's not 1/2, just like above is not -8, right? This is the actual answer, 0 and 8, because with multiplication division, left to right, whichever one comes first, left to right. In this case, division came first. Up here, number 1, subtraction came first. Okay. Now, going back to compare the original bell work, I want you to tell me, is it less than, equal to, or greater than? You should be able to tell me that this is a less than symbol, because you know that negative 99 is indeed smaller than 0. All right. You should remember that negative numbers are always smaller than 0. 0 is like that middle part. It's like the one that changes everything. Imagine this was a number line here. This would be 0. Everything on that side is positive. Everything on this side is negative. So if negative 99 is over here, you know 0 is bigger than it. All right? Awesome. Let's keep going. Let's keep working on our worksheet here. We're still talking about word problems. We're talking about inverse operations. We're saying, how do we take real life word problems and real life problems in general and turn it into a math word problem? Now, I'm be honest with you, students, you won't go into a bank and say, hey, can we do this? And then, let me get a pencil and let me write out the math equation. That's not the case. But as I told you in the beginning of the year, I believe math is problem solving, and there will be problems in your life that you will need to think critically to be able to solve. Not necessarily that you'll have paper and pen to be able to write down what the equations are or how to multiply, or do you do subtraction first? None of that stuff. But I believe being able to read a word problem, be able to discern what it's asking you, and be able to calculate the actual answer is a part of your problem solving skills that's necessary in life. Let's look at the modeling word problems, please. Hannah made 4 withdrawals of $20 from from her checking account. She also wrote a check for $215, and they want to know by how much did the amount in her checking account change. Now, there's 4 steps that I like to tell people: you analyze, you formulate a plan, you solve it, and you justify your answer. Before we dive into that, let's just read it one more time, because with every word problem, we read it twice. We underline or we highlight what's important so that we could analyze. This is our analyzing step right here. We're analyzing what's important and we're pulling out the important information, okay? So I'm gonna read it one more time. Hannah made 4 withdrawals. Even though that word for is not a number, it is important here. It lets us know how many times she withdrew something. And she withdrew $20 each time. 4 withdrawals of. This word of is very important. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to underline this word as well. Okay? She made 4 withdrawals of $20 from her checking account. She also wrote a check of $215. This is important here. A check, $215. All right. So from this one sentence, I see 2 main important things here. Okay. They want to know how much did her account change by. They want us to be able to calculate that and figure out the actual answer. Remember, we are still working on PEMDAS, which means there might be multiplication, it might be division, it might be addition, it might be subtraction. Your first goal is to figure out, okay, well, what's happening here? Okay, what's happening? I see the number 4, right? What I like to do on word problems as well is I like to annotate right above the words. That helps me to really realize, okay, what's going on. 4 withdrawals. Does withdrawals indicate a positive number or a negative number? This indicates a negative number. So I'm going to put a little negative symbol here. All right, I'm going to skip over the word of for now. We know 20 means 20 there. Now let's go back to of. What does of mean? Of is a multiplication word, right? So this, if you need to know this, I'm just going to write it right here. It's a multiplication word. Okay, all right. It's letting you know there's multiplication happening here. 4 withdrawals of $20. It's not just 1 withdrawal. It's not just 2 withdrawals. Not just 3 withdrawals, right? So they're telling us that there were 4 $20 withdrawals. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 separate withdrawals here, right? Sorry, I meant to put a comma. All right. So since there's 4 withdrawals of this amount of money, I can say, okay, that's really multiplication. And that multiplication is going to be shown by using something called parentheses like this. Now, notice how I put those parentheses. I didn't put them only around the 20. I put them around the negative. Why? Because that's withdrawals of negative 20, right? So this is really should be a comma here, if it not really in English. But for us to annotate, I want you to see that there's 4. Withdrawals of 20 means there's a negative 20 that's coming out 4 times, okay, from her account. Now, when I look over here, I see that she wrote a check. Now, a check, does that indicate positive money in her account? Does it indicate negative money in their account? All right. If there was the thing about withdrawals, the opposite of withdrawals is a deposit. So I take out money, withdrawals. Deposit, I put in money. All right. Very straightforward. Withdrawals, negative, deposit, positive. But a check, what's happening there? Is that really withdrawing or is it really depositing? When you write a check, someone's going to take that check and cash it, which means it comes out of her account. So this is really indicating that there is a minus 215 that's going to happen here. So what's my actual expression look like? 4 multiplied by negative 20 minus 215. I'll say it again. She had 4 withdrawals of $20. Because it's withdrawals, we know it's negative. Because it's of, it's indicating this is going to multiply. It didn't say she had 4 withdrawals totaling $20, right? Do you hear my terminology? If it said she had 4 withdrawals totaling $20, then we know that in total it was $20 and we don't have to really mess with the 4 at all. But because it says the word of, it's indicating that every time she went to the bank to withdraw money, it was $20, and she did that 4 times. So 4 times negative 20, and then she wrote a check of 215 minus 215. This is our expression. So we ended up analyzing it, highlighting the important information. We decided our plan is to highlight, underline, and then annotate above the words. That's our plan, right? We did 4, we're on number 4 above it. Withdrawals, we subtracted. This is our plan. We're annotating above each of the words to really see what's happening here. Pay attention to each keyword that we highlighted. The next thing we need to do is we need to solve this. And once again, now we follow the order of operations. We're not going to play around and skip around and say, okay, let's do subtraction first. We're going to multiply first because we see multiplication. We're going to say 4 times negative 20 gives us a negative 80. We're going to bring down minus 215. Okay. Now we're going to remember, oh, this is subtraction, right? If you're using your calculator, just put it straight in your calculator, negative 80 minus 215. But also keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, you could change it to addition by keep, change, and then absolute value of both. Add them together, keep it as a negative. Your answer would be 295, negative 295. Okay. Now, why do I keep referring back to unit 1? Not only are we going to take time periodically to go back there, which when we do, you're not going to be able to use calculators, but also remember on your Star 360, which is the benchmark assessment that we use in our school to help us, navigate where you're currently at in your math skills, you're not allowed to use calculators there. So even though I say, okay, use your calculator here, on the Star 360, it's expecting you not to. So you may have to use the same calculations off the top of your head. And I want you to remember the skills that we've learned in the past to be able to do so. All right. So that gives you negative 295 as our answer. Now, because it's a word problem, what I would recommend you do is explain to me in words what happened. So I'm going to take a second just to write a sentence explaining what happened. I'm going to say Hannah's account changed by $295. Okay. All right. Or I can write it decreased by $295. I like the word decrease better because that indicates that there was a negative. Because the word change can indicate it's a positive. So Hannah's account decreased by $295. You could say that. You could say $295 was taken out of Hannah's account. Any sentences that go along with it. Now, why would I recommend you write a sentence or use words on a word problem? Because they wrote words, so it makes sense for you to answer in words. Okay. I want you to be, in case even your mom or your dad or somebody's looking at your homework and you write an answer, I want them to be able to say, oh, what are you explaining to me here? You're explaining that Hannah did this. Okay. That's how you justify your answer. This is how you, remember I said justify is 2 things. You can use words or you can show work. Now, this is our work to show it. But I also, in this case, I want you to also write a sentence because this is a word problem. All right. As usual, thank you so much for joining us with the video. If there are questions, if you feel like I still have a question about a problem, I know not every word problem is the same. Take a second, read the word problems. Like we said, you need to read it, analyze it. What does that mean? That means read it 2 times, highlight, underline the important information, formulate a plan, start to annotate above your highlighted areas. If you see it's an important word or important number or something that you know is important to the actual math problem, highlight it, underline it, write it above it. All right. Then after that, then go and solve the expression that you wrote. Justify it by writing a sentence explaining what your answer is. Okay. Now be very careful when you read stuff because, for example, Reggie lost 3 spaceships in level 3 of the video game. Okay. I can tell you this. Him losing 3 spaceships may be important. What in level 3 may not matter here. He lost 30 points for each spaceship. Okay, that may matter when he completed level 3. Once again, does level 3 matter? Not really. Take your time and read it and really discern what's important because some students say, okay, I see number 3, I see number 3, I see number 3. And then you don't realize what was important with the first 3 or what wasn't important with another 3. Take your time, read it, discern the important information, all right? Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you guys. If you have any questions, once again, put them in our Google Classroom page. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.